Hi GQ, I'm Paul Mescal and this is me versus the universe. I want to say that I ate about like 5,000 calories a day and trained for like 4 hours. I worked with an amazing trainer called Tim Blakely, 50 minutes to an hour a day for 5-6 days a week. And he just understood how my body worked and yeah, just lots of weights training and protein shakes, and that was pretty much it. I was in North London. I was on the way into the theatre. I was doing Streetcar Named Desire at the time. And then I remember probably blacking out. I think I'd known I was close to it, but there was talks about coming back for a camera test. And then Lara, my agent, called me. I probably screamed, but I think it was a blackout. I just phased out and went and did the play. But I think I never assumed that it was gonna happen, I suppose. I thought that like the victory was in getting close to the role. I think with jobs, the minute it comes in, the fear starts immediately. Like the prospect of having to do it and step into a film that's already got an immense justified legacy. Nothing like that to like instill a bit of fear, I think. Fear is the thing that motivates me, yeah. I remember watching, I would have been about like 14 or 15, so around 2010. It's one of my dad's favorite films, so he lost his mind when he found out I was doing it. I think one of the great strengths of that film is how well it holds up. Like me and my friends were down in my house, we decided to watch it again, which was kind of a painful experience for me, but they were just doing their homework, I suppose. I don't think I could do a horror. I'm not the target audience for a horror film. I would love to do a comedy at some point, but the prospect of doing that is also frightening. There's this discussion that actors have. It's like, there's a thing that like you're drawn to as an artist. I'm definitely drawn to drama. So I'm gonna stick at that, but like drama is so broad that like there's so many different colors within it.
Not rom-com.
If I say rom-com, I'll just get into trouble, so yeah. Physically, there was a couple of scenes in Gladiator where we were filming in about 42 degrees Celsius, rolling around in leather armor, Ridley calling the shots, pretty intense, very, very hot. And like I'm Irish, I don't have a predisposition to being good in the sun. So that was tough. There's a scene in Normal People in episode 10 with the therapist was pretty tough to film. There's always one or two scenes in each film that like you're always looking at on the call sheet about where that is and kind of hoping that it comes 2 or 3 weeks down the line. But ultimately that's what you want as an actor. You want a little bit of fear when it comes to scenes because it means that the project matters, I think. Blind fear and panic. Music's a big part of it. I'll listen to playlists. And I know I kind of joke about blind fear and panic, but at the moment it seems to motivate me when it comes to some of those things, because if you're not scared of it, then it means that I don't think you understand it. So yeah, blind fear and panic. There's so many. Maybe Dog Day Afternoon. I'd like to be in that with Pacino would be pretty amazing. Or any Cassavetes film with Gina Rowlands, any of those. The Rocky Road to Dublin by Lancome, they have like a live version of that just gets the blood up and is really like, it's great to listen to, yeah. I think like a good solid like 3/4 length dad, you know. I think it's well documented, my preference in seam of shorts. The shorter the better, within reason. It's weird because it always started out as something that, like they're just Gaelic football shorts, practical, and I think they look better on men, I think. London's got great like roasts. I think you can't really go wrong, especially in the winter. Like go to the pub, have a nice roast, North London somewhere. I'd love to work with Sandra Huller. I would love to work with Michelle Williams. I would love to work with Scorsese. So if you're watching, please. If I can get one of those, I'll die a very, very happy man, I think. It's always a dangerous thing because I think it gives the indication that I have any clue what's going on. Always take advice with a pinch of salt from anybody, and especially be wary if somebody looks like or pretends that they've got it all sussed out. But I always go back to go to the theatre, try and be on stage as much as you can, read plays, go to like your independent theaters, just try and get off the beaten track. Like follow your curiosity and develop a taste, I think. And also don't listen to advice religiously, like figure it out yourself, I think. Don't take my advice is my advice. My Roman Empire recently was when I was doing a job where I wasn't allowed to eat a lot of food, was chicken wings. That's my Roman Empire. Probably like a pair of jeans and a vintage like band t-shirt. I like dressing casually and formally, but I struggle with the like, I don't know, when someone says smart casual, I like never know where to begin with that. That's my Roman Empire, is like, what is smart casual dressing? A lot of it's just instinct. I don't have a grand plan of like what I want to do next until it like arrives in front of me and it feels inevitable. And I think if I don't have a feeling that like I have to make it, I probably won't. That was one of those, at the minute I read it, I just felt I'd do whatever it took to not allow anybody else play it. I don't know, I just read the script and felt like, how can we make this happen? How can I make sure that it's me? The script was just one of the most moving things I've ever read, and that's always been, if there was ever a plan or a avenue through what I want to do, it's always going to come from the writing, and that script is a piece of art, I think. Getting to work with Denzel, Pedro, Connie, Fred, Joe, with Ridley at the helm of it, it's just like definitely a pinch yourself moment. I mean, Denzel is just objectively one of the greatest to ever do it, and to kind of have the proximity to him and watch him work is something that I'll just never forget, and I'm really, really excited for people to see. I remember he came to set and I was down like rolling around in the dirt somewhere, and he was up in the royal box, and I was like, there he is. He's an idol of not just mine, but so many actors to have ever done it. Like, he's kind of the benchmark of excellence. I think it's important with that, like, to recognize the legacy of what the first film was, but then to also, I've got my own job to do, and you can't be referential or reverential to the work that's gone before you, because then ultimately you're not serving the thing that you have to go and then do. It gives you a clear understanding of what the world is, and then you've got to do your bit, which is figure out who Lucius is, and no better man to include in the story than Ridley. My personal favorite actually is Thelma and Louise. I have such a soft spot for that film, and I think it's something that, like, knowing Ridley and getting to love Ridley, it's like, he's such an enigma in that, like, if you didn't know that he directed it, like, you wonder where it fits into his filmography, but it's so clear when you know him that this is a story that he always had to tell. Ridley and I got really close. He's a big fan of, like, cast dinners, and he tells the most amazing stories. If you ask Ridley questions, he'll always answer them. He's such an encyclopedic knowledge of film and his own films and actors that, like, you could just sit there and smoke a cigar with him and he will tell you story after story. And yeah, I'm a very happy audience when it comes to that. He just gives you the best advice at the time that you need it the most. I'm not going to share those things because it's like innately personal, but like, the person that the world sees in Andrew Scott is the person that I see, and I think that's he's kind of calibrated a way to navigate this career and not lose himself at all within it. Andrew Scott's a rare bird, I think, in that regard. I miss the environment of being in a dressing room. I miss the kind of latent competition, like the simplicity of, like, going out for an hour and 15 minutes and thinking about nothing else. It was a hugely informative time in my life, and definitely has shaped the way that I am as a person. But now I'm kind of happy to just watch it on the sidelines and not get my nose or jaw broken. I suppose it depends on the company and it depends on the Saturday night, but normally it involves, like, drinking with friends. Like, London's great for it and New York's great for it, because I like the fact that, like, you can go out with a plan that's immediately derailed by somebody having been to a bar the previous weekend that's amazing, and I like that you can just follow and weave your way through a city. It's like a Cartier vintage, like 1976, I think, and it's my pride and joy. I think it's a really beautiful, like, tank style watch, which I love. I feel like my taste of watches is pretty consistent. I like the tanks and I like the Santoses. I gravitate towards probably the more classic style, I think. I've been so lucky to work with we got like Daisy, Serge, Josh, Andrew, Patsy, Angela, all of these people who I don't know how to describe it. It's like, how does anybody meet like their best friends? And I meet them through work, and I don't know, I've just been really lucky that we seem to get on very well. And look, I'm terrible on my phone, so it's like we spend a lot of intense time together when we're building these projects, and then I spend the rest of my friendship with them apologizing for not texting. So it's just the nature of the beast, but I feel very privileged to have met the people that I've met, and I hope I get to meet more like-minded people the longer I get into this. I love Colm Tobin. Emma Donoghue's amazing. I remember reading Brooklyn when I was in school. Started really reading Shakespeare and novels. And when you're like a boy in Ireland, and to be moved by literature or art or any of these things, it's like a very difficult thing to articulate. And that book gave me an avenue to experience that. Thank you for watching. And that was me versus the universe.